On our wedding anniversary, I lay in the hospital after a miscarriage. Ethan Hale and his kept canary's love story was the #1 top trending topic. I sent Ethan the divorce papers. He stood before me, a faint, mocking smile playing on his lips. Clara, don't pull those little playing hard-to-get tricks. Pouting and throwing tantrums is for little girls. He was convinced that, carrying his child, I could never leave him, but he had no idea that child was already gone. His kept canary was a rising starlet in the entertainment industry. Her every move watched by millions. In mere minutes, the video shot by the paparazzi had climbed to the very top of the trending list. In the footage was my husband, who was supposed to be on a business trip abroad. I watched Ethan stand in line for 10 minutes just to buy her favorite cotton candy. They looked intimate. Ethan personally arranging her birthday surprise and fastening a delicate necklace around her neck. Exclusive. A list actress's mystery boyfriend revealed as newly minted tycoon. The paparazzi had blurred Ethan's name and face, but after years of sharing a bed with him, I could recognize him from just his back. That was definitely Ethan. The man who'd told me he was halfway across the world. An unknown number kept calling, persistent no matter how many times I hung up. It was infuriating. I finally turned my phone off completely. I lay in the hospital bed, feeling the dull cramping in my lower abdomen. Deep breath. In. Out. My nails dug into my palms, leaving crescent marks. But the pain was nothing compared to the ache in my chest. I told myself I'd just had a miscarriage and needed to rest. Getting angry and hurting myself over a man who'd cheated on me wasn't worth it. I slept for an hour. When I woke up, the video was still trending. The unknown number called again. The paparazzi had somehow gotten my personal number. Mrs. Hale. We have plenty more videos like this. Everyone says you and Mr. Hale are the most devoted power couple in the business. $50 million for our silence doesn't seem unreasonable, does it? The starlet's name was Lila Voss. She'd exploded onto the scene out of nowhere 6 months ago. And even I, who paid little attention to the entertainment industry, had seen her commercials. I just never imagined the man behind her success was my own husband. Another video popped up. Ethan wrapping an arm around Lila as they stumbled out of a nightclub. Then shamelessly having sex in his car right outside the entrance. My stomach turned, and a sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen. I sucked in a small breath, my hand trembling as I scrolled through the photos. But my gaze remained sharp and unflinching. The paparazzi had been thorough. The earliest photos dated back a full year. Layla in a sexy nightgown, knocking on the door of Ethan's hotel room. Ethan was even wearing the suit I'd bought him for his birthday. Mrs. Hale, this is just the tip of the iceberg. 50 million is well worth every penny. The paparazzi said smugly. Both a rising starlet breaking up a wealthy power marriage and a tycoon cheating on his pregnant wife were the kind of stories the public devoured. And since Ethan and I had always presented such a united front, the paparazzi was certain I'd pay to protect the company's reputation and our family's image. What he'd released today was just an appetizer to drive up the price. Listening to his arrogant voice, I felt only confusion. The world was a strange place. Ethan was the one who'd cheated. Lila was the one who'd broken up our marriage. But somehow, I was the one being asked to pay. Was I some kind of sucker? Hold on. I need to take another call, I said. I saved all the videos and photos the paparazzi had sent me, then grabbed my work phone and called my secretary to prepare for a full-scale PR war. 3 minutes later, we had every step mapped out. I returned to the paparazzi's call, my voice cold and impatient. I've made my decision. Release them. I'd known Ethan's feelings for me had faded long before this. The frequent business trips, the late nights at the office, the way he'd smile softly at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. He thought he'd hidden it well, but he seemed to forget I was only working from home temporarily because of the pregnancy not dead. 1 minute, Ethan was kissing my forehead goodbye before his business trip. The next, I was seeing notifications on my phone about all the meetings he'd canceled. The joy I'd felt when I first found out I was pregnant had been slowly chipping away ever since. After Ethan left yet again on another emergency business trip, I'd placed a hand on my stomach and wondered if I should just look the other way. Maybe Ethan and I would become like all the other couples in our circle. A loveless marriage of convenience. The boy who'd once loved me fiercely and saved me from my darkest days would turn into just another cheating, sleazy middle-aged man, just like my father. If I could just forget all the good times, I could live like that forever. I'd told myself that 100 times, but I knew I couldn't. I knew Ethan. More than that, I knew men who'd climbed to the top of the power ladder. After all these years of marriage, we were no longer the young lovers who'd fought side by side against all odds, without the external pressure and excitement of building something together. Our marriage had become dull and routine. The only things holding it together now were our tangled business interests and whatever shred of conscience we had left. But conscience was a fragile thing, and money and power. I wanted them just as badly as Ethan did. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I called my lawyer immediately. I knew every detail of Ethan's finances. I'd already had him draft the divorce papers long before I saw that video. But now everything had changed. The paparazzi had handed me irrefutable proof of Ethan's infidelity on a silver platter, proof far more damning than anything I'd found on my own. Ethan had been bolder than I'd imagined. He'd taken up with a celebrity, someone who attracted attention everywhere she went, and he'd done it while I was pregnant. What a stupid mistake. What a perfect opportunity. I revised the divorce papers. Because of Ethan's adultery, I was demanding 70% of all marital assets, plus 10% of Hale Corporation's shares. When we'd gotten married, the Hale family had been on the brink of collapse. Without the full support of me and the Bennett family, he never would have been able to make his comeback. As high-return investments go, 70% was more than fair. I signed my name and had the papers delivered to Ethan's office. The internet moves fast. When I checked my phone again, the paparazzi hadn't released the explicit videos, but netizens had already uncovered Ethan's identity. The paparazzi struck while the iron was hot. Hale Corporation CEO spotted on romantic date with rising starlet with a short, memorable name, wedding bells in the air. It seemed I wasn't the only one willing to pay for information. My original plan was out. I'd need a new strategy. Layla posted a cryptic photo on her Instagram. Amusement park day. Happy birthday to me. The photo was a close-up of her bright, beautiful face, angled perfectly to show off the expensive watch on the man's wrist beside her. Thousands of comments gushed about how the billionaire CEO and glamorous starlet were real-life romance novel characters, declaring they shipped them so hard. Lila even bought the matching rings she and Ethan were wearing onto the trending list, leaving ambiguous replies to comments asking if Ethan had already proposed. My phone pinged with a new message. An unknown number had sent a photo of two hands intertwined, wearing a pair of familiar wedding rings. The texts that followed were vicious. The sender called me a bitter old workaholic, a failure at marriage, and said if I had any sense, I'd divorce Ethan immediately and let them be happy. It had been a long time since anyone had dared speak to me like that. Not since I'd become Ms. Bennett. I'd originally had no intention of going after Lila. Ethan was the one who'd cheated. He was the one who couldn't keep it in his pants. Whether she'd thrown herself at him or he'd seduced her didn't matter. What was done was done. Every industry had its own rules for survival, and I didn't judge people for the choices they made. But that was only true as long as they didn't come after me. I was Clara Bennett, not some doormat saint who'd turn the other cheek. I had all of Lila's industry opportunities cut off overnight. The lead roles she'd been promised, her brand endorsements, her magazine features. She'd been right about one thing. I was a bitter old workaholic, and I had all the power and connections to prove it. Ethan's mother came to visit me at the house. She set down her designer handbag, clearly fresh from an afternoon tea with her society friends. She was a kind woman who'd spent the last few years obsessed with her ladies' luncheons, and she didn't seem surprised to hear I'd been in the hospital. Clara dear, I heard you went to the hospital today. Are you feeling all right? Her concern was genuine, but her wandering eyes gave away her guilt. It's nothing. Just a routine checkup. You look so pale. Is your stomach bothering you? You're only 3 months along. This is such a critical time. Oh, your hands are freezing. She wrapped her warm hands around mine, trying to warm them up. Mrs. Hale had always been a gentle woman. When Ethan had brought the broken, lost version of me home all those years ago, she'd been the one to hold my hand and tell me everything would be okay. After Ethan and I got together, she'd doted on me, filling the void left by my own mother's death. She remembered I hated cilantro, that I couldn't handle spicy food. She'd bring me homemade dinners to the office when I was working late. Before I found out about Ethan's cheating, I'd truly thought of this place as my home and of her as my mother. Even now, with my mind made up to divorce Ethan, I couldn't bring myself to be angry with her. I forced a smile. I've always had poor circulation. My hands and feet get cold easily. Mrs. Hale relaxed when she saw I seemed fine. She stroked my fingers gently, then brought up the subject she'd really come to discuss. Clara dear, you and Ethan have been married for 5 years now. It wasn't easy. What you two went through to get here. I've watched it all. And I just want you both to be happy. She dabbed at the corner of her eye, genuinely emotional. If you've heard any nasty rumors, you have to believe him. For the sake of the baby. The truth finally came out. I pulled my hands away from hers. What kind of rumors? That Ethan's keeping a mistress. Mom, you saw the videos online. Even after all that, you still want me to believe him? Mrs. Hale's face froze. Tears began to stream down her cheeks. Clara, you saw them. Those videos could be fake. That might not even be Ethan. She trailed off when she met my eyes. She was his mother. Even with the blurry footage, she'd recognized him instantly. Really? I didn't know Ethan had a twin brother. The sharp words died on my lips when I saw the tears in her eyes. She looked embarrassed and guilty, but she pressed on anyway. Clara, I know what Ethan did was wrong. He was weak, and he made a terrible mistake. But don't worry. I don't recognize any of those other women. You're the only daughter-in-law I'll ever have. She rushed to criticize her son, but her next words cut through me. But you can't divorce him, no matter what. Before you make any decisions, think about the baby. It's so small. It hasn't even been born yet. How could you bear to let it grow up without a father? The smile faded from my face. Mrs. Hale knew me well, or rather, she knew my history. She'd seen me at my lowest. And she knew there was nothing I hated more than a man who was unfaithful in marriage. She knew that no matter how much Ethan and I had once loved each other, his cheating meant I would leave him. So she was using my unborn child as leverage. I pulled my hand away from hers. Why can't I divorce him? Mom, I'll call you that one last time. You know Ethan cheated. You know he paraded that woman around town while I was pregnant with his child. I didn't cheat. I didn't betray our family. I didn't abandon my unborn child. You shouldn't be here begging me to stay. You shouldn't be reminding me of our past or of the 3-month-old fetus inside me. You should be saying all of this to your son. Mrs. Hale said nothing, just stared at me and cried silently. Clara, you know I've always thought of you as my own daughter. Mrs. Hale, if it were your daughter going through this, would you tell her to stay? Ethan's sister, Sophie Hale, had always been the apple of their mother's eye. Even when the Hale family was being hounded by debt collectors, they'd used every last connection they had to send Sophie abroad to study, far away from the chaos. As soon as Hale Corporation was back on its feet, Ethan had brought her home. 6 months ago, she'd married her longtime boyfriend and was living a perfect, happy life. Mrs. Hale would never in a million years want her precious daughter to go through what I was going through. She froze in place. Once, I would have comforted her. I'd truly thought of her as family once. But unfortunately, blood was always thicker than water. For all her kindness, she was still Ethan's mother. She loved me only because I was his wife. Love me. Love my dog. You've disappointed me. Mrs. Hale, I'm tired. I need to rest. I'll show myself out. When I woke up, it was dark outside. My pillow was damp with tears. Headlights flashed through the window as Ethan pulled into the driveway right on time. I changed into a crisp, professional outfit and went downstairs. Ethan walked in, took off his tie, and rambled on about his stressful day at work. Then pulled me close and kissed me like nothing was wrong. If I hadn't seen the video of him at the amusement park, I might actually have believed he'd been slaving away in the office all day. I brought you wonton soup from that little shop near your old school. Eat it while it's hot. I stared at the thermos he'd set on the table. What made you think to get this? You said you were craving it a couple days ago. Remember, I was only 3 months pregnant, but my morning sickness had been terrible. It was almost as if the baby could sense my unhappiness and was rebelling against it. One day I'd crave sour things, the next sweet, only to take 2 bites and throw everything up. I'd lost almost 15 pounds in a month. Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind. Mom said you weren't feeling well today. Is the baby giving you a hard time again? He pressed his cheek to the side of my head. You're doing such a good job, baby. As soon as this one's born, I'm getting a vasectomy. One's enough. I never want to see you go through this again. He pressed a spoon into my hand. Go on. Try it. Tell me if it's still good. I took a bite. Tastes exactly the same as always. Ethan let out a relieved breath, looking proud of himself. Good. It was worth driving an hour out of my way for. I smiled faintly. The taste was the same. But the drive had been too long. It was cold now, and nothing could bring back the warmth it had once held. Ethan didn't notice. He started reminiscing about the old days. Can you believe it's been that long? The owner was still there today. She asked about you. He tapped me gently on the forehead. Just like he used to. You were such a crybaby back then. His words transported me back to the darkest time of my life. The day I'd first met Ethan. My mother had died from a hemorrhage. And my father's mistress had moved right into our house, bringing with her a son my own age. Overnight, the little girl who'd been her mother's whole world had become an unwanted burden. My father had a new wife and a new son now. All traces of my mother were erased from the house. And I was moved from my beautiful bedroom into a tiny storage closet. When I was falsely accused of stealing and cried as I tried to explain. My father had just watched coldly. It wasn't some elaborate scheme. He just didn't care about me enough to care if I was innocent. If his new family didn't like me, then being punished was what I deserved. Eventually, I learned my place. I started staying out as late as possible, eating my meals near the school. That wonton shop had been my safe haven. The owner had dimples just like my mother's. I'd sit there and eat my soup and cry for my mom and for my broken family. One day, I'd finished crying and realized I had no tissues. I was trying to wipe my face with my hands, utterly humiliated, when Ethan had appeared. He'd been sitting behind me the whole time, listening. He set a pack of tissues down on my table. Stop crying. It's not like the sky is falling. There's no reason to be this upset. Tears are useless. If someone makes you cry, make them cry instead. Back then, Ethan had been the arrogant, spoiled heir to the Hale fortune. He'd looked down on everyone, but he'd hated seeing me weak and crying. He'd told me to hold my head up high and walk with confidence. If the sky falls, I'll hold it up for you. He'd gotten rid of the bullies at my school. He'd deliberately walked me home when my father was there, making sure my dad knew I had a friend he needed to suck up to. He'd been a light in my darkness, pulling me out of the deepest pit I'd ever been in. I'd fallen hopelessly in love with him. I'd thrown all caution to the wind and stood by his side when the Hale Empire collapsed, helping him build it back up again. I looked up at Ethan. Really looked at him. 10 years had left their mark. Exercise and cosmetic procedures had kept his body and face looking young. But his eyes were different. The bright, passionate boy I'd fallen in love with had been broken and remade into something else. Something tainted with greed and corruption. I knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to win me over with nostalgia, promising he'd never have an illegitimate child. If I just kept quiet and pretended nothing had happened, we could go back to normal. It was a good plan. His performance was convincing, But who told him I wanted to go back to normal? I set down my spoon. Is there anything you want to tell me? Ethan's face flickered for a split second, then returned to normal. Baby. I knew I couldn't hide it from you. I cleared my schedule for the next few days. I'm all yours. Is that all? The baby was gone. And with it, the morning sickness. Watching Ethan put on this pathetic show alone had actually given me quite the appetite. All what? Like the videos online, the divorce papers I sent to your office, or the fact that I had all of Lila's industry opportunities cut off. Ethan's face turned cold. Why the long face? Did something upset you? He sighed heavily, looking disappointed but completely unconcerned. He pulled me close, his hand heavy on my shoulder in a possessive grip. Baby. You're pregnant. Don't let your imagination run wild. We're going to be together forever. You're not allowed to divorce me. He rested his head on my shoulder, nuzzling my neck affectionately. For all his arrogance and coldness in public, Ethan had always been incredibly clingy in private. He loved to act cute and vulnerable to get what he wanted. Like a feral cat that only showed its belly to you. It made you feel special. Like you were the only person in the world who could see that side of him. It had always worked on me. Every time we fought, all he had to do was act like this and I'd back down. But now, feeling his warm breath on my neck, all I could think about was whether he did this with Lila too. Whether he talked about marriage and family with me while he was out chasing passion and excitement with her. Just the thought made me sick to my stomach. I grabbed his collar and pulled it down, revealing a bright red lipstick stain. Next time, check your reflection before you come home. Ethan's face turned bright red with embarrassment when he saw the stain. Looks like you had plenty of time to go to the amusement park today. Nice to see you're taking work-life balance seriously. I pushed him away and pulled out another signed copy of the divorce papers. Read the terms. If you have no objections, sign here. Ethan stood up and shook his head, that same mocking smile on his face. You're really divorcing me over this? When I didn't answer, he tucked his stained collar back into his shirt. Relax. I was just stressed, so I kept a little pet to amuse myself. Everyone in our circle does this. Just look the other way, and this will all blow over. He pulled me close again. If you don't like Lila, I'll have her blacklisted immediately. She'll never show her face in front of you again. I promise. Baby. You're the only one I love. I couldn't listen anymore. I felt nauseous. I pushed him away hard. I don't care what happens to Lila. I just want you to sign the papers. It'll be easier for both of us. Ethan had rotted away from the inside out long ago. Every second I spent near him made me feel dirty. I never wanted to see him again. It was an insult to the boy who'd once loved me with everything he had. When he saw the genuine disgust in my eyes, Ethan lost his patience. When did you start playing these hard-to-get games, Clara? I'm giving you an out. Take it. Don't threaten me with divorce. I frowned, genuinely confused by his confidence. Ethan, what makes you think I'd ever forgive a man who cheated on me? He smiled smugly. Because you love me, and you're carrying my child. You could never leave me. Besides, you didn't seem to care that much when you first found out about Lila, did you? His words hit me like a ton of bricks. I stared at him in shock. You wanted me to find out. You did this on purpose. Ethan didn't deny it. He looked away uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. My heart dropped into my stomach. Of course, he'd been sleeping with Lila for a year without leaving a single trace. If he hadn't deliberately left his phone out where I could see her messages, I never would have known. Because I was pregnant, you thought I couldn't leave you, so you decided to test me. I was barely pregnant. You didn't care if I had a breakdown. Ethan shrugged casually, his eyes still not meeting mine. You've always been healthy. You're fine, aren't you? It was laughable. I'd lost so much weight. I was pale and exhausted, forced to work from home because I could barely stay awake. His mother had been bringing me soup every day. But Ethan, who could have forced me to stop working entirely if he'd wanted to, somehow thought I was perfectly fine. Even though I'd already given up on him, my heart still ached. For all the years I'd wasted, for how stupid I'd been. You're disgusting. I refused to back down. Ethan grabbed my face roughly, spat out a series of vicious threats, and stormed out. Clara, who do you think you are? Look in the mirror. You think you're still some young, beautiful girl. I'm doing you a favor by letting you stay Mrs. Hale and spoiling you. You think you're different from all the other trophy wives sitting at home. You're just a vice president. I could fire you tomorrow, and the company would keep running just fine. But without me, you're nothing. I'm giving you time to think this through. Stop acting out like a spoiled brat. Ethan slammed the door and never set foot in the house again. But I heard about his every move from a dozen different sources. He took Lila shopping. He took Lila on dates. Lila sent me NEW photos and videos every single day, bragging about all the endorsements Ethan had gotten her, all the movies he'd cast her in. She sent me videos of them kissing passionately, of them having sex. She even sent me over a dozen intimate bedroom videos. She really didn't hold back. I didn't sit around moping while Ethan was parading his new girlfriend around the world. I transferred all my assets into separate accounts and started my own company from scratch. Using the connections I'd built over the years and the reputation I'd earned at Hale Corporation. While Ethan was gone, I hired movers to take all my things to another property I owned. Everything that reminded me of him I either sold or threw away in one day. The house was completely empty. I locked the door behind me and sold the marital home we'd designed and built together. The day after I listed the house, Ethan called me. Clara, you've got some nerve. Thank you. When are you signing the papers? He started yelling, and I could hear a woman's giggling in the background. I hung up immediately. It made my ears bleed. Ethan began taking Lila to every high-profile event. Then, at a board meeting, he demoted me, claiming it was for my own good so I could focus on my prenatal care. But everyone in the industry knew the truth. He'd dumped his wife for his kept canary. On the surface, Ethan was on top of the world. I'd been forced to leave the company I'd helped build, and everyone was calling me the long-suffering wife who'd been kicked out of her own home while pregnant. That's all bullshit. If it weren't for Clara, Ethan Hale would still be living in a gutter. That ungrateful bastard who bites the hand that feeds him. He can't keep it in his pants. And he doesn't even have the decency to be ashamed of it. Zoe Carter had overheard some people gossiping about us at a party. She'd spent half an hour insulting them indirectly before storming out. The next day, she showed up at my door with 3 men. I was only gone for a month. And you let him walk all over you like this? Why should Ethan get to have all the fun? You need to get yourself some young boy toys. I want the whole world to know that my best friend deserves the best. And Ethan Hale isn't good enough for you. She closed my laptop, threw an arm around my shoulder, and whispered in my ear, "Don't worry. They're all college students. Young, hot, in their prime. Way better than that dirty old prick Ethan. Besides, if he won't divorce you, this will definitely light a fire under his ass." I let her talk me into it. I kept the one I liked best. To sell the lie, he moved into my house and became my personal boy toy, with Zoe's big mouth spreading the news. Ethan heard about it almost immediately. He sent me dozens of angry texts, accusing me of cheating on him and cuckolding him. He burst into my office, sneered at the boy standing beside me. "Clara, your taste has really gone downhill, hasn't it? You're actually interested in some wet-behind Thier's kid. Better a kid than a dirty old prick. Security, show him out." I didn't even look up from my papers. Humiliated, Ethan went around the industry telling everyone that anyone who did business with me would be making an enemy of him. He'd fallen from grace once before, and he knew how hard it was. He was convinced I was just jealous and would never actually go through with the divorce. He was waiting for me to fail and come crawling back to him. But he only remembered how hard it was to be at the bottom. He'd forgotten how we'd gotten out of it. In just a few short years, he'd become so used to being the CEO of Hale Corporation that he'd forgotten almost half of the company's clients and partnerships had been secured by me. "Mr. Wallace, it's been a pleasure doing business with you." I raised my glass in a toast. The freshly signed contract sat on the table between us. I had all of Hale Corporation's latest technical data and the most loyal client list. Ethan, guilty and nervous about his affair, had been the first to suggest I work from home when I got pregnant. I'd returned the favor. The day after I found out about his cheating, I'd started poaching his clients and winning over the board members, making sure I had a safety net. For years, I'd worked tirelessly behind the scenes at Hale Corporation, so much so that Ethan had forgotten who I really was. I wasn't just Mrs. Hale. I was Clara Bennett, the woman who'd taken back Bennett Enterprises in 2 years. Then spent the next 3 helping Ethan build his empire from nothing. I hired a courier service to deliver a copy of the divorce papers to Ethan's office every single day. After throwing them in the trash for a week, he started refusing delivery. I paid the courier an extra $1,000 a day to stand in the lobby of Hale Corporation and read the divorce papers out loud at the top of his lungs. Especially the parts about Ethan's adultery. I heard Ethan got so angry he had to take blood pressure medication. At his age, his blood pressure was already 160/100. Private photos of Ethan and Lila started circulating in all the Hale Corporation internal chat groups. Several key executives I'd lined up in advance resigned from Hale and came to work for my new company. The board was furious and demanded Ethan take responsibility. Ethan was swamped with work, trying to fix the damage from the mass exodus of employees and clients and clean up all the half-finished projects they'd left behind. Hale Corporation was falling apart from the inside out. Ethan was so busy he didn't even have time to get Lila onto the trending list anymore, let alone cause trouble for my company. That's when the rumors started trending. A famous rising starlet with a short, memorable name was having an affair with a married billionaire. After days of speculation, everyone landed on Lila. Lila and Hale Corporation both issued official statements immediately to debunk the rumors. Ethan went even further. He leaked the news that I was pregnant and bought a bunch of articles about our epic love story onto the trending list, painting himself as the perfect devoted husband to clear his and Lila's names. Zoe called me the second she saw the news and spent half an hour screaming about what a piece of shit Ethan was. I can't believe I ever liked him. That cheating scumbag has the nerve to drag you into this and pretend he's some kind of loving husband. I'm going to kill him. She paced back and forth in front of my floor-to-ceiling windows, clicking her heels so hard I thought she'd put a hole in the floor. I laughed. Calm down. His karma's coming. I had someone release the original, unedited videos the paparazzi had sent me. No blurs, no pixelation. They'd even zoomed in on Ethan's face to make sure I could recognize him. Now the whole world could see him too. The video was the smoking gun. Lila and Ethan were roasted online immediately. Hale Corporation restricted comments to approved ones only on all their social media accounts and tried to pretend nothing was happening. Ethan rarely appeared in public. But Lila was a celebrity. Her career had skyrocketed too fast, and Ethan had stolen so many roles and endorsements from other actresses to give to her that she'd made a lot of enemies. This girl debuted 2 years ago and was a nobody for a year and a half. Suddenly she's getting all the lead roles. Yeah, we all know how that happened. She had the nerve to buy trending topics bragging about being a mistress. I'm so sick of her entitled attitude. Lila's career was destroyed overnight. She owed hundreds of millions of dollars in breach of contract fees for her endorsements. Then people started digging up the truth about Ethan and me. The guy who cheated is my old boss. When his family went bankrupt and he was drowning in debt, his wife supported him completely. They were so in love back then. Everyone at the company knew. I can't believe he did this to her. Current employee here. The rumors are true. The cheating billionaire is definitely Ethan Hale. We all knew about this a while ago. His wife was pregnant and took a month off work. The day after Lila's relationship ended, he demoted her. So she quit and started her own company. And now she has someone read divorce papers to him in the lobby every day. The whole company knows. Between cheating on his pregnant wife and being an industry plant who'd stolen opportunities from hardworking actresses, Hale Corporation was facing a massive PR crisis. The new product Ethan had spent 2 weeks working overtime to launch was boycotted by angry consumers and flopped miserably after only 3 days. I seized the opportunity to launch my own superior product and capture the market. My new company got tons of free publicity from the drama. Ethan called me, screaming, "Clara, I never knew you were this cruel. Do you really have to ruin me completely?" "Absolutely. Future ex-husband. And thank you for all the free publicity. It's way more effective than spending millions on a marketing campaign. By the way, don't forget to sign those divorce papers, or I might have to release a few more things." I attached the intimate videos of Ethan in bed and a private voice recording of him talking. Lila had sent them to me. After the scandal broke, Ethan had thrown her under the bus in every interview, implying she'd seduced him and that it was all her fault. Her career in ruins, abandoned by Ethan, and drowning in debt. Lila had come to me and traded the recording for my help getting her out of the industry quietly. Ethan had never held back around Lila. He'd ranted about all his business partners, bragged about Hale Corporation's tax evasion schemes, and even made inappropriate comments about politics when he was drunk. He'd practically signed his own death warrant. Ethan finally signed the divorce papers. A month later, I got my divorce certificate and cut all ties with him completely. When Ethan found out Lila had given me the videos and recording, he went to confront her, backed into a corner. Lila stabbed him and he ended up in the hospital. I heard he'd damaged his manhood so badly he'd never be able to have children again. With Ethan in the hospital and Hale Corporation left leaderless, I turned over all the evidence of their tax evasion to the authorities. Hale Corporation was liquidated and bankrupt, carved up among competitors. I got the largest share. I didn't see Ethan again until 3 months later. He was standing outside my front door, looking disheveled but still trying to look confident. "Baby, it's been so long. I've missed you." He'd clearly tried to dress up for the occasion, but he looked pale and gaunt. He was wearing the custom suit I'd bought him a year ago, and it hung loose on his thin frame, making him look like a hollowed-out skeleton drained of all vitality. But he didn't seem to notice. He still had that same arrogant look on his face. "Baby, it's been long enough. You must have calmed down by now. I'll go to your prenatal checkup with you tomorrow. We'll get remarried." I looked down at my flat stomach, genuinely confused. "Are you blind? Or have you lost your mind? We're divorced. We have no relationship anymore. The next time you see me, you will address me as Ms. Bennett." A dark look crossed Ethan's face. He leaned against the wall. "You're carrying my child. How can you say we have no relationship?" "Child. Oh right. I forgot to tell you. I had a miscarriage 6 months ago. I know you were too busy to notice, but I thought I'd be nice and let you know." Ethan stared at me in disbelief. "You lost our baby. Clara, how could you be so cruel? That was my only child. Why? Because of you." "Ethan, and don't pretend you're heartbroken. You didn't care about this baby. You just thought you could use it to trap me. You killed this baby." "Not me." Regret filled Ethan's eyes, but I knew it wasn't regret for cheating on me or betraying me. It was regret that he hadn't pretended to be a good husband just a little longer. At least until the baby was born. The thought made me sick. I didn't even want to look at him anymore. I glanced pointedly at his crotch. "Since you want kids so badly, may you have a house full of them?" Ethan's face twisted with rage. He lunged at me, but I stepped back, right into a solid chest. The boy behind me grabbed Ethan's wrist and twisted it hard. Ethan screamed in pain. The boy leaned down and whispered in my ear, his voice soft and wounded. "Babe, who is this guy? Just some washed-up loser." I slammed the door in Ethan's stunned face, cutting off his final, enraged roar. "Clara, how dare you cheat on me? Ridiculous." He was a cheating piece of garbage who was long gone. Did he really think I'd spend the rest of my life pining over him? I was single, rich, and free. What was wrong with having a little fun?